So, what we're actually here to discuss. Right. Offshoring tech team strengthens business growth, improves margin, and is worth the risk. In the four corner, we've got the wonderful Rebecca Fox, founder of RELENTICA, just left a pretty high-powered role at NCC. Yes, I have to go with that. And yeah, we're very, very blessed to have you for the for side. For the against side, I'm not going to try and pronounce your surname, but it's Csaba. Is that right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's Csaba, right. And Saba's done some amazing things at Pretty Little Thing, Aways, anything else?
Anchor Store. No, I got a new venture starting in January, so
I can't wait to hear about that. There will be Christmas drinks afterwards if people want to join us at Beer Moth afterwards, where we can speak to these lovely people. But before we let them loose on the debate, I need to do two things. Thing one, tell you how it works. So each speaker has got about 10 minutes. We always start with the for, and then we have the against. 10 minutes each to argue for the motion or argue against the motion, and then we open it to Q&A. Q&A lasts as long as Q&A lasts. Got questions, we want you all to get involved with your questions, with your topics, put them under pressure. And then there will be a chance for a rebuttal, and then this time it will go for about a minute, the against, and then the for. But before any of that, we have a pre-vote. So get your phones out, and we will move that along. So yeah, please vote on this one. Where do you stand? And then we're going to have a post-vote. We're going to see if the arguments have changed the opinions. Ooh. And I'm not going to vote.
Well, you're getting it back.
Yes, boo. This is just it's just a litmus test. There's no winners and losers on this. But where we get to in the end, it's not really about the vote. It's about the difference they've made. Can they change your opinion?
I've got my work cut out, haven't I? Christ.
Oh.
I've got also £10 in the bag, by the way.
All right, Elon.
I didn't say millions.
Right. Everyone done? Anyone left to vote? Anyone want to vote that hasn't voted? Okay. All right. There we go. You've got your work cut out. So we are back here and then. Right. Here we go. Rebecca Fox. Offshoring tech team strengthens business growth, improves margin, and is worth the risk. Over to you.
I've got a mic here. Have I got a mic here? Are we on? Yeah? David need a mic. It's fantastic. Here's my hands. So I'm 52, right? So I do have to kind of write down what I'm going to say. So I'm going to try and entertain you with my 15 pages of why offshoring tech team strengthens business growth and improves margins and is definitely worth the risk. So listen, good evening everyone. I'm genuinely here to argue unapologetically as offshoring tech teams, when done properly, strengthens revenue, it improves margins, and it's absolutely worth the risk. Can I ask, how many of you are software engineers or people that might feel are affected by this as a motion? How many people are in those kind of roles? So you're all the ones that voted against, right? Just checking. Anyway, I'm Rebecca Fox. For the last 2 decades, I've held several global CIO positions, digital technology leadership roles, and right now I'm the founder of RELENTICA, an AI, digital and transformation and strategic delivery consultancy. So I can say this with full lived experience, what I'm going to say, not theory. I've built global capability, I've done arbitrage, I've moved work offshore, I've worked through the attrition and the recruitment, I've dealt with the moral discomfort, but I've seen the outcomes, and those outcomes every time have been worth it. So I asked you the question about who's a software engineer, because actually sometimes you think as a software engineer, this isn't right for me. Maybe after this, you may still vote you're against it. But I'm specifically looking at this from a business perspective, from the commercial outcomes that it's going to give your organizations that you're working for. And also encourage a software engineer to think about not just the job you're doing today, but the job you're doing tomorrow, the job that Csaba is doing. You know, he's actually leading teams that are offshore as well as onshore. although I'm not ever saying that. Anyway, many debates about offshoring focus on the internal engineering teams, and they matter a lot. But I want to widen that lens ever so slightly, because the biggest commercial impact isn't just the internal teams, it's those customer-facing tech teams too, the engineering, the cyber, the support. So if you're in a professional services business, a digital transformation business, an MSP, a cybersecurity consultant, a software engineering delivery house, anything where headcount becomes a revenue where you are charged out, offshoring, in my view, is not a nice to have. It's a competitive weapon. The reality of the UK market today is customers want more for less. And I know this, I've been a global CIO, right? We want more for less. Procurement wants to lower the rates. Competitors are undercutting those organizations globally. And everybody wants faster delivery and a higher quality. So if your delivery model is 100% UK based, the businesses are pricing themselves out of the market. The mass, the commercials, they just don't work anymore. With offshore delivery, you can win more bids, you can reduce blended rates, you can increase margins, you can deliver more efficiently, and obviously offer that follow the sun support. And then you can still reinvest those profits into innovation and UK leadership ideas. Your competitors are already doing this. So if you don't know, and if you're not protecting UK jobs, you're actually possibly losing the entire client. This is not about cost reduction, it's about growth, pure and simple. And if it's not about growth, it could be about survival. I want to talk about margin now. And I don't want to be unpolite about it, but I've got to be bold about it. So whether you're delivering internally or to customers, the economic model is exactly the same. We've all been asked to deliver projects, products, services where budgets aren't what they needed to be. So we've all delivered them, sometimes not very well, sometimes late, sometimes the quality has not been there, but we have delivered them. And if those external, if those projects are to external companies, and we're trying to deliver them with a customer day rate based solely on UK salaries, one or two things is likely to happen. The first is you probably don't win the business in the first place. Terrible. You don't have any business for your business. Or the second thing is you win it and you destroy your margin. And that's no good. There's no point for the business, it's not profitable. There is no business. Both scenarios are worse, in my view, than offshoring. When offshore capability, you can bring down your blended rates, your gross margins rise, your delivery bandwidth expands, your bid competitiveness skyrockets. You are going to win more business for both the UK team and any offshore team. And then you can reinvest those savings into senior roles in the UK. You can do it in product leadership, cyber, or simply growing that business even more. This is why the most serious delivery businesses are already using offshore. And if your business isn't, that's a problem. It's not because it's nice, it's because without it, the commercial model in the UK simply fails. And if you're an internal function, imagine having more technical resources for less cost, right? That's got to be a good thing. There's a comfortable narrative that says, let's keep senior roles in the UK and let offshore do the execution. It sounds reassuring, it sounds local, it sounds pretty patriotic to me, but it's also completely wrong long term. You can't build a global delivery model if only one location is allowed to grow real leadership. So in Manila, Bangalore, Ho Chi is forever capped on the execution-only model. You've built a second-class arm to your organization. You stunt capability, you stunt culture, you stunt your growth. The strongest offshore models don't offshore tasks. They offshore leadership, architecture, product ownership, QA strategy, project management, cyber operations, platform ownership, and a whole lot more. You can't create career ladders. So you can create career ladders, but not cheap hands. And when your offshore teams grow, I would argue your UK teams upgrade, not downgrade. UK roles move upwards. So software engineers, your role gets higher, not lower, and does not exist. You elevate yourself. It goes to innovation, architecture, product strategy, cyber design, AI leadership. Global capability makes UK talent more valuable, not less. This is how you build a resilient business, not one that holds the talent in one geographical location because it feels emotionally safer. The other part of this motion is about risk. People often talk about offshoring, and I've seen it in my teams. Offshoring feels like the same risk as jumping out of a plane at 10,000 feet without a parachute. I promise you it's not that at all. Every risk can be eliminated with leadership. And let me be really clear, it's all about leadership. And I see in a room here, if you're not already leaders now, you are the leaders of the future. So culture is literally solved with investment in training and recruitment. Communication is solved with a clear operating rhythm, collaboration and inclusion. Security is solved with proper access controls, network segmentation. Delivery quality is solved with standards, automation and training. Time zones, of course, solved with flexible schedules and overlapped windows. Meanwhile, the risk is pretending the UK cost base is sustainable and there is an endless talent pool to join your organisation. The real risk is losing bids, losing margin, freezing hiring, watching technical debt suffocate innovation, burning out UK teams, slowing down on delivery and becoming uncompetitive against firms that you're competing against because they're doing offshoring. And in our businesses in the UK, everybody is competing against global businesses, whether we like it or not. We already work hybrid. We already work across cities. Offshoring is just a different city. Risk isn't offshoring. Risk is not offshoring. Let me address the elephant in the room. Isn't this taking UK jobs? Who thinks it's taking UK jobs? Nobody. Oh, my argument's over. Brilliant. And of course, sometimes it is. Yes, of course it is. Roles do move and not through that natural attrition. But the alternatives are this: losing bids, losing revenue, losing whole teams, maintaining high costs and ultimately kicking out UK account anyway, failing to deliver, reputational damage, organisational collapse, burning people out, attrition, churn, and then rehiring more. The real moral failure is building a business that cannot survive globally. And we're all global businesses. We're all global people. We may live in the UK, but we're global. Offshore teams don't replace people. They stabilise the business. They elevate the UK team. They grow capability. They expand opportunity. I've seen UK staff promoted, not replaced. I've seen offshore colleagues become indispensable, trusted partners, friends, people who care deeply about the business and the customer and are not cheap labour. They don't create a two-tier system. They create one business globally. And morally, for me, that's a far better option. Also, most people forget this. In an open delivery center, if you open a delivery center in Manila, India, Vietnam, wherever, you get new customers, you get new markets, you get new partnerships, you get new brand presence. You also build resilience across economies. It's not just arbitrage, it's diversification, the best diversification. A diversity of thinking, of culture, of talent, of location. It is a competitive advantage. So let me end on this section about the risk. Is it worth the risk? It's absolutely worth the risk, but only if you want to do these things. If you want to grow revenue, win more customer deals, improve delivery velocity, improve your margin, reduce burnout, stabilize cost, expand capability, build global resilience, create opportunities for everybody, and prepare for the next 10 years, then yes, offshoring is worth every bit of the effort. But you must do it properly. You must do it boldly, bravely, intentionally, unapologetically. You cannot dip your toe in the water. You must dive in with leadership, vision, and commitment. Because businesses, and I've seen this firsthand, that work and scale globally, they go all in all the way. And when you do, everything changes. Offshore strengthens business growth. It improves margins. And when you lead it well, it absolutely is worth the risk. Vote for Vietnam.
Now it's time to dig in. Just here for Csaba.
Well, hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Csaba Nagyidai. I've been an engineering manager for several years for a pretty little thing, Anchor Store, Aways most recently, and I'll be starting a new venture in January. Interestingly enough, my first task will be to move an offshore team into in-house, which kind of will come into my point. Is offshoring tech teams strengthen business growth, improve margins, and most importantly, is it worth the risk? And let's talk about the risk a little bit. It sounds very compelling. You know, on the surface, lower salaries, you got a global talent pool, round-the-clock productivity, you know, all these big things. But is this all just a bit of a spreadsheet view of how development works and what's involved? Let's dive a little bit deeper into this. In my experience working with offshore teams, you undermine product quality, not because the teams are bad, but mainly communication. You need to have a shared understanding of what you're building on all levels. You need rapid iterations. When you got offshoring, you immediately introduced a delay in communication. The further you go, the bigger the time difference it is. You have to be really, really good with your non-verbal, not immediate communication. And that's hard. Let's be honest, that is really hard thing to do well. Things like a bug comes in. Let's fire up with our senior developer who happened to be hours away and he just clocked off for the day. So he's not going to be around until 2 a.m. So your bug is not doing anything. So yes, you can mitigate this as well. You can have a bigger team, more people. You can have more men or more manpower.
Sorry.
I'm correcting myself because that is actually true. More muscle power or keyboard power that will be able to tackle. But then, did that improve the margins? You need more people for the same thing? I argue it's not. Another big thing, cultural differences in communication style and misalignment. In software engineering, clarity is everything. You can only deliver very clear software products if you got very clear instructions. If that's the case, yes, offshore teams will deliver really, really well, but you need to know what you want. And that's not always the case. Another thing, offshore teams, they're not working as part of your business. They're more incentivized to tick box that. You got a project, you finish it, you get on with it. You can sign it off and that's it. They're not incentivized to deal with technical debt or to make decisions that will only be a problem a year or 2 or 3 even down the line. And if that's a risk that you're willing to take for today's game, maybe offshoring is for you. I'd argue against. I think that businesses cannot grow if their product is inconsistent or it's really difficult to maintain. Let's go on that margin again a little bit. Some hidden costs. With an offshoring team, you got a little bit of a management overhead. You still need to manage them. There's extra layers of QA. You need to know that what you're getting is actually really good. If it's not, it becomes a risk and a liability for your business. You need extra coordination tools, infrastructure. Think about legal compliance. Is your data going outside of the boundaries or not? This can all be done really, really well. Is your company at that level? I'd argue you need to look into that, because it's a risk that can sink a company. Talking about this, operational risks, political and economic instability. Wars can happen in an instance, and I was working with an offshoring team then in Ukraine when the war happened, and then what happens? You kind of lost your team, at least temporarily, until it was very clear how the political situation is going. So is that again a risk that your business is willing to take? Maybe. Data security and IP risks. Many high-profile breaches have roots in poorly monitored offshore environments. But even if that's not the case, think about the cultural differences. Things like that comes really natural to a country or people in a country that might be completely out of place in somewhere else, like Manila, for example. Things like GDPR. We know it. We all hear it all the time. People there might not. And you can argue that, yes, you can hire developers who will have that knowledge, but then you're not comparing apples to apples by apples to oranges, because you're straight away, you're hiring talent that is classed much higher than what you're trying to replace. So your margin will be out the door straight away. Another main point on this, offshoring can damage innovation. I think innovation is born from collaboration, shared context, and deep understanding of products and users. And with offshoring teams, you need extra effort to actually make that happen. Get the company buying and not have those differences. It's us and them, people who are here, there. You need people who are all bought in the same vision to innovate and not just stick in that box for this particular project. You want someone who will be able to look at the project and say, okay, yes, this can bring growth for the business, but a longer term, and we need to go through several iterations to do that. Offshoring teams tend to be not incentivized to do that. Innovation needs quick experience, spontaneous brainstorming, tight alignment with product teams, serendipity, hallway conversations. It's like in remote work, that's kind of gone. I do miss that very much from the days when you just go into the office and you pick up where the company direction is heading. So you have to build and work towards that information to spread across. Offshoring creates long-term dependency and weakens internal capability. So I'd argue that if you're relying heavily on offshoring, your engineering team will diminish, because what happens is that, oh yeah, we need a new feature, let's just build it with a new offshore team. So you suddenly end up in an organization that's very, very heavily offshore-centric, and the remaining developers that you have might decide to leave. They might decide that the organization is not going to the right direction, and then you end up with a dependency for that. Another interesting point is vendor lock-in. So you heavily rely on one particular offshoring team, and then there's an issue. I don't know. There's an invoicing issue. And then suddenly they say, right, okay, all our people are not working for you until this is sorted. Is that a position where you want to be, where your business should go? I think not. There could be customer expectations, again, towards local. People want rapid feature development, high reliability, strong security, and personalized experiences. Can this be done with offshore teams? Yes. Can it be done with the right margins and without the risks? I'd argue not. Ethical, cultural, and brand awareness risks. So companies face reputational challenges when they offshore. Consumers and employees increasingly expect businesses to invest in their local communities. Offshoring can be perceived as cost-cutting, and it's an expense of domestic jobs. If that's the case, your brand can be damaged very heavily. Another thing, offshoring, some markets have less robust labor protections. Companies that offshore may found problems around this. I actually have a personal story around this. One of the offshoring team members had a child, and he was off for 1 day. To me, that's crazy. How can that happen? And it could be that person decided that they do not want any time off. I had this really bad feeling that they were forced to be there because the headcount needs to be there, and the offshoring team would have to provide someone else instead of him, and he would lose his income if he doesn't come to work. I don't know if this is the case, but it just leaves a bad taste. Conclusion. The Horsham claims that offshoring strengthened business growth, improved margins, and is worth the risk. When we examine the real-world dynamics of building and maintaining technology, I think that quite the opposite is true. It reduces quality, slows delivery, and creates hidden costs. It introduces significant operational, security, and cultural risks. It undermines innovation and erodes internal capability, threatens customer satisfaction, and exposes companies to ethical and brand hazards. If the goal is sustainable growth, resilient operations, strong culture, and truly innovative products, then the risks of offshoring are not worth the reward.
Wow. Okay, I'll do this. Settle. Yep, we're good. What? I'm blown away by the strength of both sides of that debate. That was pure quality. Everything that was said is worth discussing in more detail. Just to recap a little bit, so Rebecca, for the side for the motion, was talking about increased productivity, increased margins, better opportunity for businesses to do well in this country if they offshored properly. And I take that point. I think it's a really big point. It has to be done right. Csaba was talking about making sure that we are, by going offshore, we do the right thing ethically for the people that work in offshore. Are there risks with the wars, things that might go wrong over there that might not happen here? I mean, we could go to war one day as well, but, you know, get behind them. We've got things around the idea that actually at some point, if we don't, there might not be British technology because we can't afford to hire people. And there's a point around, you know, the new minimum wage. You know, is that going to push us out? We have to go offshore, and that's something that's probably worth offshoring. And then for Csaba, very much on the you know, the pro onshore, it's like, is the data protected? Are we in the right regions for that? Are people are you losing communication, the time zones? You know, there is an argument that now we are in a world where most people are hybrid anyway. Does that matter? But then if something goes wrong and the key developer or technologist that might be working on a particular feature just happens to be offline, you can't get hold of them. There's so much to unpick. I love this debate. Absolutely. I hope you've got lots of questions and you're not just going to leave it to me to ask the questions. So please put your hands up and think. We go over at Josh and Rant.
Straight, Josh goes first. No, but so my question, I guess, is to that, and it's, you know, if it strengthens business, produce margins, and is worth your risk, why are there so many examples, at least for me, of companies like backtrack it? Like, is it a case of like Yabby, IBM? These are like big cases I've seen where they try offshoring, and then but there's costs, whether it's like a running efficiency, they kind of like backtrack if it's so effective.
So you mentioned, have you finished the question, by the way? So you mentioned two big companies there, Yahoo and IBM. I don't know those particular examples, but are you saying they don't do any offshoring?
They do, and have tried it, but they've kind of like pushed back slightly on it.
They're two massive global companies, right? So they, just by their very nature, they're offshoring, right? They're global businesses. I said in my talk, this is all about leadership, right? You've got great leadership. It doesn't matter where the resources, it could be in the UK, could be in Manila, could be anywhere. It's all about leadership, right? And to your point, if done properly, and I would argue and just countering some of your arguments, it's like if you've got crap leaders, you're going to have crap, right? That's the reality of it. So great leadership, you can run teams anywhere and you can run them just as good no matter where they are. So I'm not saying Yahoo and IBM haven't got great leaders. Maybe in examples they weren't all in, they weren't leading properly. They've got to step over, maybe fire those people and get better leaders, right? And then stop blaming the offshore, wherever that would be, right? That's what I would say. Just one more point on that is just for some clarity. So we've got to make sure we don't get confused between outsourcing and offshoring. So outsourcing is where you're literally paying someone else to give you your service that may be in the UK or that may be delivered offshore. It doesn't matter to you, it's not your problem anymore. But offshoring in its own right, for me, the best way is to do captive offshoring where they are your people on your payroll working in a lower cost where there aren't, but if you're not familiar with the term arbitrage, by the way, the word arbitrage is the difference between the salary in maybe the main country or a country versus the salary in another country, and obviously it can be either way. And certainly was at NTC, the salaries in North America, for example, were 20-30% higher than the UK salaries, right? So you can argue, well, we offshored work from North America to the UK, which we did do, right? But of course, then we also had a global delivery centre in Manila where the arbitrage from any country was much lower in Manila. But going back, Josh, it's leadership, right? Crap leadership, going to get crap results, right?
So this is from a recruitment point of view. We're constantly getting asked who's available now, when can we get somebody in now, and companies now are doing 3 months, even 6 months notice periods. How do you think that affects the decision making from the business to have something done immediately?
Who's that to, bro?
That's more of like, I think you'll both have an argument from that question. Is time pivotal in decision making, whether to go offshore or not?
So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So I think the time is important here. Are you just making a decision right now that 2 months down the line you're going to change your decision? You might be wasting money with either regardless of offshoring team or onshoring, because you don't actually know what you're building. So my kind of counter question to that is that, you know, if you want someone now, you either had some planning issues or you don't actually need to. You don't know what you want. You had an idea. You want to build it quickly. Maybe ChatGPT is for you then. I don't know, but I don't think either offshoring or onshoring or even hiring a single person would be the right way if your approach is that we need them immediately. You need to have a longer term strategy with both teams that will generate some income or some benefit from those teams. Because yes, you hire someone now, regardless of where, and your kind of immediate idea gets over, and then I got a team here, and I need them to do something, because otherwise I'll have to let them go. So yeah, that's my argument basically.
So Rebecca, in your experience, is there greater availability faster if you're not?
Well, the two answers to that. So first of all, vibe coding probably isn't the answer, by the way.
Yeah, this is a non-AI debate, by the way.
Oh, right. And so for me, you can't just suddenly say, well, we want someone quick, we're going to open up an offshore centre in wherever. You know, that's a strategic decision that you make to reduce risk of an organisation rather than add it into Csaba's point, Baze. And so you can't just suddenly say, tomorrow I want to recruit here. It's a strategic decision. And I do think if you open the right offshoring facility, you can probably get faster resources there than you can in the UK. I do also speak from experience. It is still also a challenge to recruit, right? And when I think back to examples, certainly more recently in Manila, you've got to tap into the local markets, and you can't do that, no disrespect, from having local recruiters trying to recruit in a offshore place. You've got to be really in the market. And when you have a strategy that says we're offshoring this location, it really depends on where that location is. And I don't think it's probably that much different for the senior roles, for example. For the senior roles in every location, they're just the same challenges in every offshore location. I think one thing, if you do outsourcing with an offshore model, I think it's not your problem anymore, right? The problem is that the third party that you're contracting with. I want someone bum on the seat tomorrow. It's their problem. It's not my problem, right? But I think the problems exist wherever you are. But I would argue, choose the right location. If you are going to do it, choose the right location based on your needs, whatever those needs would be, and you choose the right, jobs are good.
So can I just explore a little bit? So I know, obviously, I've seen your feet before, Rebecca, on the fact that you built this team and as an NCC team.
Yeah.
And you kind of brought that outsourcing offshore or building your own team offshore. And I'm guessing, Csaba, and I don't know, and so I'm going to avoid this. You know, when you've worked offshore, they're with agencies or offshore companies. Have you ever worked with an offshore established team?
Yes. So I worked both with companies who were offshore, but we also had sort of an in-house office team based that was in Turkey, where we would hire developers locally. The challenges there is the legal differences, like things that you might take for granted here is completely different there. Like how long you need for notice period to be is different. How long you need holidays. One biggest pain point with hiring these people were the HR IT system wasn't able to distinguish for some time until they fixed it for the different holiday needs for those people, different bank holidays. So it's things that you don't really think about suddenly start creeping in.
It's so interesting, yeah, because I wanted you to talk more a little bit about both of those experiences.
So for me, I mean, of course it exists, right? In the global businesses, you know, America's, you've got no holidays a year, right? And I joke, by the way, they've got a couple. A couple. Thanksgiving, if they're lucky. Yeah. And the hiring practice is like, you know, you hire and fire in a day, right? That's the reality of it. And I couldn't imagine working like that. It'd just be horrific, right? Then you go to other places and you go back to Milan. I mean, you get someone in after 6 months' notice, it's very hard to exit someone from the business. But that's just life, right? It's just live in a global world. We live in a place where cultures are different. But that's also what makes things amazing and special. That's what brings innovation. That's what brings creativity. And actually, why would you want to close that door off to having different experiences, right? Why would you want to do that? That wasn't a question.
Well, I would argue that like this is all great, and I really enjoy working in an organization that had multiple offices around the globe, or at least Europe. And it's great. You got the diversity, the legal side and HR challenges. It's a nightmare. You know, any kind of thing like, oh, this person didn't turn up, and you have to kind of go through like, okay, what contract are they on? Let's see if that day is actually a bank holiday there, instead of having to kind of go and say like, oh, where are you? But
that is just communication, right? You know, I talked about, you know, these are in whatever country where people are located, specifically if it's an offshore location for resource. I mean, these become your colleagues, right? Become your friends, and actually hopefully you talk, right? Hopefully you communicate. You know, tomorrow's a bank holiday Monday, and you know, next bloody Wednesday and Thursday in the Netherlands is some King's Day. What is that about, by the way? How many holidays have
It's a lot of fun though, yeah.
It's like the Netherlands. It's like, you know, what's that about? And then when you're off sick in the Netherlands, you can be off sick forever. It's like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's quite interesting you say that. I worked for a French company, and there were people on.
You don't have to turn up in France.
Well, yeah, nearly. So
Sorry.
basically, I started working,
Sorry,
and
French
for a
people.
month and a half, there was one team member who was off on holiday.
It's true, isn't it? Why are you in work today?
So, yeah, going back up for a month and a half, I've never seen this team member because they were on a holiday.
Yeah.
And that's normal. And
Yeah.
you just go and embrace it. And you say communication, yes, communication, but you still have these kind of built-in reflexes that you have to overcome. And it's, you know, it's not simple.
But we just
But
build a
it's
whole
doable.
new set of skills in a couple of weeks. We all get used to this way of working. And that would be me is why I think, you know, the argument of, you know, offshoring is going to grow the business because you improve your margins, you improve your culture. You know, why wouldn't you do it when you can make your business stronger, your cost base better, sell more, deliver more? Fantastic. Jobs are good. And
Because communication is not easy.
but it's
Amazing. Right, hold on. No or no? I want to throw it back to the audience. We've got Andrew here, who's both worked selling offshore resources and offshore teams and onshore teams. So he's a bit of a bit of an expert in this situation. You've got a question.
It's to Rebecca. I think both arguments have been absolutely really interesting. Rebecca, you've taken your view is very much on the global scale, huge business, huge roles. I'm just really interested to get, say, 10 years earlier, where you might be at a more of a local based business, maybe UK based, maybe just European. What's your experience of the resource market, whether that was you were using offshore or whether it's as effective?
Yeah.
Basically without the lens of global.
Let's look at, you know, 15 years ago, I worked for a business where we had an offshore, and it was offshore outsourced model using resources out of Poland. And when I went there, it did feel like it was a fucking disaster. But the reality was you manage the supplier and you treat the people there like you should treat all people as employees, whether they were contracted into them, you treat them as colleagues, right? Because they absolutely, if you treat them as something else, they're never going to be a colleague. So again, leadership, and turned it around, and they worked absolutely brilliantly. That's all my advice. It's all about leadership. It's all about leading with intent. All about treating people, you know, fairly and communicating effectively. But I also know that not everybody does do that. Not everybody sees that as important. Some people see these people working in different countries as adversaries, and that's, if you do that, it's never going to work, right? Why even bother? You've got to be all in. I think that would be my response. So yes, I've done it. Also in places like NCC, we had people in Spain, for example, where I had people in Spain that were software engineers, and they worked really hard, by the way, and they just loved working for me. No, they loved working for NCC, and it was great to have them in that multicultural aspect of being able to deliver. And we never had any problems delivering. We had people, you know, from the UK, people from Manila, people from Spain, people from the Netherlands, all delivering on one project, and we were better because of it. Simple as that.
And just as an add-on to that, so when you were a little more junior, and this is always also for Csaba, so what were your battle scars? So you've highlighted great leadership, and you're absolutely right, completely.
It is all about
and so the leadership side's obviously from your perspective, because you're a great, strong leader. You know what you want.
I like to think so.
But that's from your.
Yeah.
But so when you were learning and you're a little more junior,
Yeah.
did you experience weak leadership? And did you
I
experience
was without question a week leader.
So for you to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So how did that look, and what was the experience of that?
So that's a terrible question. How can I answer this? So I definitely know that my leadership has come with age, and it's come with confidence. So in terms of offshoring, I remember one example where I definitely did treat people who were offshored as just a thing. And actually I did learn pretty quickly that actually you've got to treat them as colleagues. So I've learned from that failure on my part. And actually, as soon as you open your mind to that concept that these are people, these are other humans that should be treated as colleagues, I think things become a lot more clear and a lot more clarity. And again, managing the supply if it is an outsourced element too. There was one point you made about what size of businesses offshoring work. And I would argue that we all do offshoring anyway, right? We all buy stuff that's manufactured outside the UK, right? So we are kind of doing that. We don't have a problem with it personally when we order something from Amazon, certainly around this time of year for Christmas, right? And the reality is we do it anyway. So actually it can work for any size business, but you've got to go for it all in with a plan, with a strategy, and then it will work. If you go in there going, I'm just going to give it a go, that's kind of fine, right? But don't expect amazing results. But you could, we've seen people in the UK, I'm sure, where they've got one person and they're outsourced their entire development somewhere else. You know what? It works. So it can work for any size business, but you've got to do it purposefully. You've got to do it with intent, and you've got to do it with that kind of clarity of thought of treating people, not just as a resource that you can abuse, but as a colleague. To make sure you're delivering, the quality and the communication.
So really good, right?
Yeah. So on this point, so I think that the main argument against offshoring is really like it works really well if you do it properly, and my argument is not everyone can do it properly, and not every size business is kind of geared up to do it properly. Just to go back to your question about leadership and where it goes kind of haywire. If you think that offshoring will, you get a new person, they log in, and when I hear, they need to hit the ground running, well, that's not how it works. Like you put someone in a brand new environment, they don't know anything, they don't know how to install, they don't know all the dependencies that all need to be learned. So you have to, going back to Rebecca's argument, you have to treat them as a human being to allow them to kind of build all that knowledge to be effective. So if you go into this saying I'm going to have a new headcount from this month and we're going to have increased productivity, that's not how it works. And
that's the same as the UK, right? You bring someone on, you don't onboard them properly, they're going to leave in 3 months, right? They're not going to be, churning out whatever they need to be delivering quickly, right? And that could happen UK, Manila, India, Poland, Spain.
I guess the question is, because you have people offshore, is it harder to onboard? Yes or no? I suppose the counter argument to that is, if it's done right, then it should make no difference.
It's different.
But is it intrinsically harder to do it right? That's going to leave that in the air, because I think there's some people in the audience weigh in. Adrian, you had your hand up. Do you have your hand?
It does now.
Yeah, I was looking around for the microphone. It's interesting. I suppose in many ways, I'm for the motion. And that's really...
Be what, Adrian?
To a large extent, the genie's out of the bottle. And in my career, obviously, I've been around for a while, as you could see by my grey hair. And I suppose to a degree I was in at the start of the outsourcing, offshoring situation. And really what's happened is there's been, sort of amazing expansion in technology and capability. And in many ways that's actually been fueled by, the outsourcing revolution. That's interesting. Rebecca did make this distinction between outsourcing and offshoring. And then I remember outsourcing when it started. Basically, it was companies like EDS and IBM. And what they do is they come and they'd open up an office next door to your office. And actually, the team that was your team moved across the road, an IBM badge or an EDS badge or whatever. And then gradually, I think when, clearly the Indian sort of economy began to realize that to take the country forward, they really needed to do something big in the technology space, and they made economic incentives available for companies to set up. And I think actually some of the early people who went to India initially were organizations doing it with the model that Rebecca suggested. But I can actually remember when Ireland was an offshore destination. And, we see what's happened to the Irish economy now. I spent part of my childhood or my teenage years in Ireland. Republic of Ireland was a poor country compared to UK. Now, GDP in Ireland is 3 times what it is in the UK. Now, there's a whole host of factors associated with that, but not related, but not the least of which was that actually it was a very early offshoring destination. So people like Intel, and there was a company called Amdahl, which, probably nobody's heard of now, but was an IBM mainframe sort of competitor, which actually set up in Ireland, did a great job there. People like Intel are still in Ireland. Apple, I think, went to Ireland very quickly. And
That was for tax incentives too, though, right?
oh, there's a tax incentives, but really what's happened is that, we've now got this global technology capability that wasn't around, 30, 40 years ago. And I just watch with amazement how it has all grown and expanded. And I think some of the challenges that you mentioned, people actually realize those challenges were there early on. And in fact, there's a lot of work went into improving hiring practices and making sure that people were sort of got up to speed. People recognize, things like holidays, etc. So I think the situation changed. I also have perhaps of all got a vested interest in the way. I actually chaired the ISO committee's standard on the topic of outsourcing, and there's a whole capability we put together several years ago, which you people follow, actually makes the outsourcing process as painless as it possibly can be. So to sort of declare that conflict of interest. But anyway, back to the motion. I'm for Rebecca's.
Let me give you that. Do you want it £50 now or later?
So, I'm not sure if there was a question there, but a lot of brilliant points. Anyone want to add anything to what Adrian brought to the room?
I did. Whilst listening to you, Adrian, I kept thinking about one thing. So, it's great if we offshore more. But what I think we didn't really mention is the new stream of developers. How are we getting junior developers? So if we're focusing on the senior roles and we outsource everything else, how are we going to fill those senior roles in 10, 15, 20 years' time? That's another interesting question. How are we going to get there? Are we kind of chopping the wood under ourselves?
By
the way,
I might be biased. I might be biased in that junior perspective. I'm seeing that offshore is growing, right? Especially on the cost point. And that, for me, being founder of North Coders, where we create junior talent, is a big worry. If we are going to offshore all of the stuff that we would usually expect juniors to do in this country, then there is going to, that vacuum between trainee, junior, first role, second role is going to disappear, especially when, Rebecca talked about, we still need some of the senior leadership in the UK. So it's very interesting to hear.
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that, and I don't think it's offshoring that's driving that. I think AI is driving that too. I know it's not about AI, but I think there was a talent thing there. But from an individual business perspective, offshoring is the right thing to do. From a government policy perspective, and taking the conversation wider, it annoys me that we buy trains from Spain to another British Railways. Why do we do that? I've got no clue. And, I don't think it's individual businesses that need to fix the problem. The government needs to put policy and whatever in place to encourage people to do more stuff offshore, not just services, but also manufacturing too.
All right, hands up in the audience. Any more questions? Any more thoughts, points?
There's some questions over here.
I definitely did see.
I definitely saw someone over here. Anyone?
And
Rebecca's picking on you. Okay, whilst you're thinking of the question.
There we go. I need a big one. Yes. Bullying in the workplace.
No, I'm really interested in this topic, so got many questions on both sides, but I'm going to ask Csaba, if that's okay. Yeah. You mentioned a point where you said the quality of the product or service that is provided by the offshore team decreases when it's offshored. Can you explain that a little bit more? So that
Yeah, sure. So in my view, there's two arguments for this. One is the lack of communication. So you really need to be very specific with what you want to deliver. And again, that's not an easy thing to do. So a lot of the times, at least in my experience as both a software engineer and a team lead, that the requirements can evolve all the time. And things can be misheard. So simple things like you're in a room brainstorming and half of the team is in a different country. If you don't have the right tooling, they can't hear you. So they can't be an effective part of that debate. They might not even hear all the conclusions. So if your practices are, oh yeah, we talked about this and everybody knows and everybody's on board, are they really? That team might not be. So this is one thing, the communication, and the other part is, my brain is fried. So quality wise, is the offshoring team, are they really incentivized for you? So I work mainly with a model that's more outsourcing, kind of where you got people from a different company, because when people are working for your company, this is sort of less of an issue because you got that buying, so they're part of the same company. I'm kind of destroying my own arguments here.
I'm enjoying it, Csaba. I really am.
I bet you are. But in my experience, the easiest way of offshoring is you contact a company, you hire some people somewhere out there, and you don't have to worry about setting your office up there, wherever that is. But that means that those aren't necessarily your employees. They're incentivized to deliver that project as quickly as possible, and they're not incentivized for your project to be sustainable on a long term. So this is where the quality degrades, because the offshoring team and the main team, they have slightly different objectives.
Sorry, do you mind if I add a follow-up? So if going back to offshore, if those employees were on your own payroll, so they feel like they own the product, if there's any quality issues, wouldn't that highlight flaws in the hiring itself? So like Rebecca mentioned, with the leadership, quality of leadership rather than the quality of talent.
Sort of, yeah. So I think if you, sorry to pause.
No, go.
But with this one, if in my experience, when people are your own people working for your own company, kind of being somewhere else, if there is a quality issue, that's not a them issue, that's a whole company issue, and that quality issue can happen with any part of that team. So in my experience, just simply because they sit in another country, in let's say Belgium or something, that's not going to make them work poorer. It means that your quality control is bad in general.
Can I just build on that? By the way, I again, it's back to leadership. If you are outsourcing and that's an offshore team, it's supply management, right? That's the thing. And actually, I can absolutely guarantee that a lot of people don't manage their suppliers very well and very carefully. And actually, you could have chosen the wrong. I'm not saying you, by the way. You could have chosen the wrong one. You choose the wrong supplier, right? You are literally fucked. You know, especially if you sign a contract, you've got to get out of it. So you've got to manage your suppliers so closely, and if you don't, more full on you, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with this, Rebecca, because if you're not in control of who you're hiring and what they're delivering, that could be anywhere. That could be your people, or it could be outsourced. It doesn't matter. You're not in control.
And what I would say is, if you're outsourcing and offshoring, you've got to treat those people doing the work as if they're your own. Don't ever think there's them and us. It's just us. Great question.
Jitesh, we've got a question.
Have any more questions over here later, by the way? Brilliant. Any more questions? You've got some more questions?
Oh, no.
No.
We've got Jitesh over here.
And that's fine. I'm just warming them up.
Come back over there, don't worry.
Rebecca, a question for you. So, is there ever a time when offshoring is a bad idea?
Oh, what a great question. It's a cracking question. See, you're just trying to make me destroy my own argument, aren't you? There is, and actually you came up with it. And actually, when you work for organisations where there is a challenge around legal compliance, and I think if you're working in an organisation, and I might have worked for one quite recently, where you may be doing things around national security, or you might be dealing with data that can only stay in that country. How can you offshore that as a thing? So if you suddenly go, we're going to save lots of costs by offshoring it to X place, and you're down that road, and then suddenly it's, fuck, how are we going to? You can't, right? So I think in that instance where there's a data sovereignty issue, I think definitely there is a place to do it. I'd also argue there were also probably some countries where I wouldn't offshore to. We somebody talks about geopolitical and wars, right? So for example, and China doesn't really seem to be like an offshore service center, right? It's a manufacturing place, but I probably would feel a bit uncomfortable with doing any offshoring or even outsourcing to China other than something being manufactured and shipped. And no offense if anybody is from China, by the way, but it would make me feel uncomfortable. And there's probably other countries where I think you've just got to challenge that. I think there's also so I'm just thinking of all the arguments that go against me, and there's probably also some places. So you're welcome. So I was at a board meeting where we decided, what are the shortlisted countries for NCC we're going to outsource, right? And I'm a gay woman, and they said we're going to choose Malaysia, and I'm quickly googling Malaysia, illegal to be gay, and I literally went, we are not choosing Malaysia, and I literally pretty much said this: if we choose Malaysia, I am not going to be here. Fairness to my chief exec, he said Malaysia's off the list, done. So I think there's a challenge, right? That the cultural, legal alignment there's got to be something, right?
So, just kind of summarising, so kind of cultural differences,
but
very specific,
but ones that literally would go against the ethos of where and I'm not going to go to bloody Malaysia, am I? As a gay, it's not going to happen, right? I'm just not going to do it, right? And I think also where there's data sovereignty issue, I think there's a thing. But I mean, it doesn't mean you shouldn't offsource somewhere else, by the way, that data sovereignty isn't an issue. Maybe in Europe, we're not in Europe anymore, damn. Or where there's like the cultural alignment, there's enough of a Venn diagram overlap, I would say.
I guess, is there any size of scale of organization then? So does it make sense for larger organizations to do this, or is it actually all organizations, any size?
It definitely makes sense for larger organizations. I mean, there's no question about larger organizations. They're going to get a bigger bang for the buck, right? But smaller organizations definitely can take advantage from it. Certainly if you have long-term growth ambitions, and maybe you're an organization of 10 and you want to grow to an organization of 50, if you start when you've got 5 today and you're going to scale, you're instantly going to save on costs, right? As you scale it up. That's what I would say to you. So if you think strategically, I think there's an advantage for small organizations too.
See, one of the key points you made was leadership is key for making this work. And with a larger organization, I could see them having much broader range of leadership and much more capable. Smaller organizations who are probably going to struggle with that and possibly be less experienced with kind of offshoring things. So are they more likely to fail with it?
I think big organizations can fail with it too. I don't think the size of organization matters. I mean, any organization does probably need to seek some advice, right? To say, hey, we've not done this before. Is there someone that can help us with this journey? And I think that's, even if you are experienced at doing it, I still think you probably need some, local knowledge and possibly local leadership pretty quickly to make sure that you don't fail. I certainly know that in my last role, I would say to my SLT team, this time next year, one of you around this table is going to be based in Manila. Guess what? 7 months later, a person around that table was based in Manila. They were not my number 2, but they were number 3, and they were based at Manila. And that really transformed the dynamics of how we saw the rest of the people in Manila. But I think just that local knowledge and an expert to help you do it is really important.
I think that was a really interesting point around the size of the company that can have good enough leadership that can manage across borders, right? And across time zones and across cultures and across geography. And you sort of, we know that NCC is a big company and they have the ability to set up a team in Manila. Another company that happens to have set up a team in Manila we spent time with recently is the Financial Times, the FT. They do exactly the same thing. They have their own teams in the Philippines and they find it a rewarding experience. There are those organizations that can't do it. So public sector. They need security clearance. They need to be based in the UK, critical national infrastructure. They would like to benefit from the more favourable price points, but they can't because you can't offshore certain things that can't be offshore. That total cost of ownership to actually, it's hard not to understand Jitesh's point around actually for a small company, it is hard to set up your own business. It's easier to offshore, to outsource, especially if you're a small company that's scaling. You might want to go, well, hang on a minute. In order to prove my concept of this business and get my next round of investment, maybe I should be looking to outsource, but maybe not set up my own team. So I think all that's really, really important. We are drawing to a close, but I've got a final question for Csaba, actually, before we do this. You mentioned in your talk around one of the first things you're asked to in a new role is to re-onshore a team. What is it specifically that company has struggled with that means they ought to re-onshore a team?
That is a really good question, and I'll answer you in about a month's time.
You don't know who the company is, so you can be a little bit, a couple of...
I don't know the reasons, so I would need to get on board and obtain this information before I can answer that.
Is it because I offshored them a year ago then?
Are you going to work for NCC? Right, okay. I think we are running out. Has anyone got a burning question? I don't want to cut anyone else off. And Will?
Somebody over here, come on. You can finally do it. Wrap it up, guys.
No pressure.
Right, we're going to do our 60-second wrap-up. Final say, Csaba. Go for it.
My final say. I got it written down because my brain is like water. So, okay. So let's be honest. The idea that offshoring tech teams strengthen growth, boost margins, and is worth the risk is a fantasy built on spreadsheets, not on great technology and how it's actually built and delivered. Yes, offshoring looks cheap, but the moment you factor in what really drives successful tech companies, quality, speed, culture, innovation, and trust, the entire argument collapses. Time zone gaps slow down every decision, miscommunication multiplies, rework becomes normal, technical debt piles up. Whatever you saved on salaries, you lose twice over in delays, bugs, and customer frustration. And the risks? They aren't footnotes, they're the story. Political instability, security exposures, IP vulnerabilities, fractured culture, slower incident response. These are not abstract possibilities. These are daily realities for companies who offshore. Worst of all, offshoring drains the very thing tech businesses survive on, innovation. You can't innovate when your teams are disconnected from your customers, your strategy, and each other. So no, offshoring doesn't strengthen growth, it weakens it. It doesn't reliably improve margins, it erodes them, and the risks aren't worth it. There are reasons so many companies eventually bring their tech teams back home. For these reasons, I very strongly oppose the motion.
And the process, and the final say.
I'm disappointed that, Csaba, I've not convinced you that offshoring is a great thing to do. I mean, the reality is innovation is created from diversity, right? We've got all the tools at our disposal. COVID gave us the ability to communicate anywhere, anytime, really effectively, collaboratively. So all the arguments Csaba suggested are literally, I'm just going to say, bullshit, right? They're just bullshit arguments. If you want a really strong team, whether it's an engineering team or any team, right? It could be a marketing team. They've got to be global. If you want the value and the arbitrage, they've got to be global, right? This is just a false argument saying they've all got to be in one place. We don't work in one place anymore in the UK. We work in different cities, in different locations, Doesn't matter whether it's the UK, whether it's in Manila, doesn't matter if it's in India, doesn't matter if it's in Vietnam, it doesn't matter. We just want brilliant talent, and we can get brilliant talent with offshoring at a better value. What a better way to grow your business, what a better way to grow your margin, what a better way to grow your talent, not just in the UK, but across your business.
Amazing. Now, of course, Rebecca. Now, to see if any minds have been changed. What was the, do we remember what the final numbers were? 33, 67. There we are. There's a new one. Please vote again.
Yes! No!
Oh, okay.
What? Oh. Final push. Final push.
Do a reach.
Yeah.
Last few stragglers.
Will the bricks, isn't it? It's the wall.
That's not helping my side.
Has everyone got to vote yet? I've not voted this time.
I know where you're vote.
I was trying to be as impartial as I possibly could.
Several Babbage. Oh.
So, the motion is very definitely passed that probably the winning argument, the change, Rebecca, and actually won more votes, won you over. So well done. Honestly, I think the quality of that debate, the quality of conversation, the quality of questions, what a debate. You put so much into it, and you should be really pleased. I'm so pleased that you put so much into it. Such high quality conversation. So round of applause, everyone. Thank you very much.